systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday afternoon, one day before the All-Star, the trade deadline. Not All-Star break. That'll be here before we know it, though. Not too much going on. I mean, a decent amount. I was expecting a little more. I do think we're definitely going to have some more trades when it's all said and done. Right before we got on, Brandon Ingram, the Hawks are shopping or looking at Ingram. KD, I guess he doesn't want to play with the Warriors. Now I'm seeing Heat stuff. I have no clue what's going on in the association, but very fun time of the year. This time, especially one day before the deadline, a bunch of Q tags, random stuff could happen today. So you most definitely need to be locked in your computer. We got big boy prize pools today, though, Rio. Really excited for this one. How you doing?
Yeah, doing good for sure. Prize pools are really nice tonight. I saw they had the $111, 100K at first, and they have the $11. Probably won't be in that $100, but this is probably the most volume I'll be playing all season long because they have the that tournament that they're doing. Again, it was the same thing as like the in-season tournament they did back in November, whatever it was, every Monday and Wednesday going head-to-head against some of the best guys in the industry or in the DFS space. So pretty excited about that. So that starts tonight. So got to be locked in. But yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces as always around the trade deadline. A lot of guys that could. There's a lot of guys on tonight's slate in particular that are, I guess like almost everybody's playing, but a lot of big names that are possibly going to get moved. Heard a lot of things about DeAndre Hunter. Heard the Spurs are still looking to be buyers. Milwaukee's probably going to, they might make some more moves. You got the Joe Val and Nurkic stuff. Miami is kind of being in within those talks in the trade, and even Toronto, they're kind of looking at Brandon Ingram too. So there's a lot of stuff that could change as we get closer to lock. So definitely have your computer around, have your phone on, Twitter notifications, all that stuff, Discord notifications, and we'll get you squared away.
Yeah. Be prepared for chaos. If you don't want chaos, unregister everything right now. Take the night off. It'll be a lot more stress-free. But hey, getting 100K, getting 10K, getting 1,000, getting a couple $100 in the pocket, profit, always good over here. And again, prizes as big as you will see. Good luck in that tournament, Rio. That goes on, I believe, into like late March or mid-March something was when it fully ends. So good luck to you. Battling the best in the world for sure. Couple quick thoughts before I say hi to people. Then we'll go right into it. 9 games on the slate, so no time to waste. 3 games at 7 p.m. Eastern. 3 games at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. 1 at 8, 2 at 9. So that's how we got it spread out. Majority in that first hour, then 2 games after, 1 hour apart. At 9 p.m. Eastern. Takedown, Casey. I should say, what's up? Not just read all the names. What's up? Takedown, Casey, Michael, Lachlan, Ricky, Daniels, Michael, NY, Wardo, Parabai, Camden, William, Michael Ortiz, Wins a Lot, Jason Turner, Mark Davis, Nate D, Austin, Luis, Jake, Robert, Joseph, Lyle. Appreciate every single one of you hanging out. All we ask from y'all, like button, subscribe button. Does help us out a ton. Big Ed in here as well. What's going on, Ed? And then I'll get to marketing right away. I'll bring it up once more when everyone else files in. But no better time to get in. Waste management tomorrow. Talk about big prize pools. Huge prize pools in the golf streets. Rio might be the new golf guy over here if he keeps taking down some of these tournaments. But Chip 50 gets you $50 off your first month. And again, I don't think there is a better time to join. So $99 with the optimizer and all of our content. Bring that down, minus 50, $49 for the whole month. Cannot get a better deal. There is weekly, doesn't include Discord though. Almost still half the price because of this promo code with it being so good. I definitely recommend doing this over any other deal. And just this week alone, huge. I think it's Daytona. I keep saying I think. I have to check the NASCAR schedule, but I believe Tambo said a couple weeks ago, Daytona is the same week as Waste Management. So it's a huge NASCAR contest. Huge PGA contest. It's a pay-per-view, so big boy MMA contest. NBA going on, of course, NHL, and of course Sunday for the Super Bowl. Can't wait for that. We'll have our show 2 Eastern on Friday. Hoop Tambo, and myself. So make sure to check that out. But no better time to get in. Again, that does include Shiptimizer. SHIP50 is the promo code. Sean's in here. L Money, what's going on? Gucci Rio, I like that, Jake. What's going on, Jake? Gangrene in here. Ross K as well. Yep. Oh, Daytona's next week. Okay. Ross, let me know if there is any big race this coming Sunday. And again, because Super Bowl is on Sunday, I doubt the prizes will be great. But there's almost 100K up top every single Sunday for NASCAR as well when NFL ends. So huge prizes. Shout out to the game. Did a great job this past. There's a secret chat. Yeah, it's called our Discord. If you sign up, head over to the Discord. That is the secret chat. All right, Rio. Any broad slate overview? Again, there's so many moving pieces. I don't even know if you want to get into roster construction, certain Q tags. Otherwise, we'll just go game by game and go from there.
Yeah, let's just dive right in. I think. I think we had one thing though. Joseph needs some help getting in the Discord. I don't know if you're a member, but you have to be a member to be a part of the Discord. If you are, then it's pretty straightforward. You got all the how to do it on the site. So.
Yep, and I'll drop the comment. So you have to be at least like a weekly does not have it. Otherwise, monthly, 6-month, annual does. You'll be able to link your account above. I'll drop the exact in the YouTube comments right after I get this opening game and Rio talks about step by step how to do it if you can't figure it out. But first game of the nights. Big boy favorites are the Milwaukee Bucks, 10.5 point favorites, 223 total, taking on the Charlotte Hornets. Injuries in this one. K-Mid got traded. I want you to touch a little on that, obviously, as a Bucks fan here. We talked a little yesterday. I didn't check like the championship odds. I don't think Kuzma by any means is a needle mover. I don't really love it. I don't hate it. If Giannis likes it, then I like it is how I see it. But I don't think that like brings Milwaukee to a favorite by any means or moves the needle that way. But interested to hear your take. Brooke Lopez is questionable. Pretty big news. Like if he was ruled out and Bobby Portis was still there and he started, I think that'd be a little interesting. Charlotte side, everyone's favorite player, Micic, is questionable with an ankle injury. Other than that, no other injury news there. Take it away. Bucks, Hornets. First start with the trade and your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it seems like
moved a little bit, so pretty much nothing.
I mean, you're getting somebody that's more durable, I guess, because Milton's obviously had those ankle injuries that he's missing, a couple games a week and only playing no more than like 25 minutes. So I think from a rotational standpoint, getting somebody that's going to be on the court a lot more is pretty big for them. But I think in terms of like talent, it's a pretty lateral move. Like I don't think Kuzma is much of a needle mover. It's more so just obviously like they say like availability is the best ability. So having Kuzma out there more, I think is pretty good for them. And he's got some things that could work well with Dame and Giannis. Having a floor stretcher like that should work pretty well. But yeah, definitely not. I don't think it really changes the odds. They still got a lot of huge, really talented teams in the East to get past, and I just don't know if they have it with this team. Been hearing a lot of talk about them possibly starting a rebuild too. I mean, you're kind of in a weird stage where all your players are in their 30s, so it's like win now, and if you don't win, then you're like a year or two away from kind of being where the Warriors are. So
the problem is, I mean, the Bucks have been in rebuild mode their whole career until the whole life until they really drafted Giannis. I mean, Kareem, if you want to go all the way back in the day, but like they hit the absolute lottery with Giannis. It's so hard for them to get stuff with them. Like once his time's over, I'm just expecting another 20, 30 years of dryness unless you get a Wemby. So I hope not. Like screw a rebuild. Like, you got to try as hard as you can, I think, with Giannis right now in his prime. But
yeah, for sure. There's a really quick story I can talk about really quickly with the how Giannis kind of came to get drafted by the Bucks. There was like a assistant coach in Atlanta that like the Hawks had their eyes on Giannis since he was like 14 or 15 and were essentially like hiding him from the public, like trying to make it unknown that, there's this freak athlete in Greece that's going to come over in the NBA pretty soon. They were going to draft him. They ended up firing that assistant coach like a year or two before Giannis was coming to into the league, and he told the Bucks like, you got to get this guy, like he's a freak. So it's pretty funny, just like the vendetta that guy had on the Atlanta Bucks.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Pretty cool story. But yeah, we spent a lot of time on the Kuzma stuff, and I think this game is kind of Not the greatest one on the slate. I think you can obviously make a case for Giannis. Surprisingly, though, the Hornets have been one of the best defensive teams in the league really since like Christmas, like mid-December. I don't really know how much that's to do with them actually playing good defense, because they are like for the most part a pretty slow-paced team, so that could just lead to the numbers looking a lot better. The rim defense hasn't been great. They don't really have like the best talent in terms of like wing and on-ball defenders, so I don't think that it's too sticky. But yeah, the rim defense has been getting kind of beat up over the past couple weeks or so. Obviously, it's kind of the same thing with Mark Williams every year. The rim defense is never that great with him there. And we've seen some guys in the front court put up really big lines against him. So I think Giannis is a totally fine spin-up option. Should have a little bit more usage going his way with Middleton now shipped away. And then you have the Brook Lopez. So like you're not really taking away or adding or subtracting Brook Lopez, I think is kind of worse. Like if he's off the court, because Bobby Portis is such a good rebounder, whereas Brook Lopez doesn't try to get any rebounds. So from like a ceiling standpoint, it might get a little bit worse for Giannis, but yeah, I think that this is just a really good spot for him. So I'm okay with Giannis. Don't really love Dame at 8.8K on a big slate. I think that probably you can find more upside in other games, other teams. So probably just Giannis or bust on the Bucks side. And then the Hornets, really just Bridges or Mark Williams. The Bucks rim defense has actually been really bad as of late. I don't know how much that is due to Brook Lopez playing poor defense, or if it's just having all these injuries that they've had. But they've been kind of bad over the last like 10 games or so. So both those guys should be in a pretty decent spot. Bucks still allowing a pretty good amount of pick and roll scoring and 3-point scoring. So decent spot for some of these guards, but you just don't really have a lot of high pick and roll scorers on the Hornets now with LaMelo out. But Bridges, I mentioned it on the show Monday. I messaged Ham and BJ and us and you in like our little group chat that we have, and told Ham to bet Miles Bridges triple double, just because the numbers I was seeing with Miller and LaMelo Ball off the court, you see really big rebounding and assist rates, like all the usage stuff spikes up. So it's like the numbers that you see with like Luka and Jokic, where they have like 25-30% assist rate, 15-16% rebounding rate. Those are kind of in line with numbers of guys that could flirt with a triple double. We saw that last time out. So at 9.2K, really expensive price tag, but the role is definitely that of somebody in the 9K range. So I'm okay with him. I think Mark Williams is probably a little bit too expensive right now. And then if Mičić misses, I think KJ Simpson is the guy you'd want to look to. I don't think that I really want to get to like Isaiah Wong. KJ Simpson has a little bit more talent and pretty solid from the peripheral stats standpoint. Had 6 and 8 in 2 games ago, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. So I think that he'd be the guy I'd want if Mičić were to miss.
It's not a game that is really getting much ownership. It's not a game that I love too much for ownership. And the same really can be said about the next game, assuming if D Mitch is in. But the reason I bring that up is, again, 3 games at 7, and it goes on from there. But today is a day where I'm expecting news to hit. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know when it's going to hit. But news will hit, and that could open up a lot of better plays. So I'm not going to force – I don't love really anything in this game too much. If I land on a Giannis, you mentioned Bridges, I'm good with it, but I'm not trying to have too many players in the first 7 p.m. lock time. Again, I don't like this next game too much. Spurs Hawks definitely a little better, but if I can, or if I'm in a close 2v2 or something, I'll lean to the later start times with the possible injury news that opens up that could change the whole slate. So just wanted to add that. Kuz isn't going to start tonight, though.
I don't think he's going to be ready to go. Yeah, they just got traded, so I don't think you can. It's going to need like a day or two to get settled in. What can you tell me what the odds were? I was trying to figure out what the odds were for this last time out. I imagine they were pretty good. Nice
stuff, Lachlan. All right, and I saw in your slate plan you had a little sentence. If you want to see Rio slate plan, very very in depth, does a great job under NBA slate plan like we have for all the sports. He had a little nugget in there. He said. I don't quote me. I don't know the exact quote, but pretty much it feels like a good spot. Bridges could get a triple-double or something like that. So shout out to you. Maybe you'll have a sneaky call like that a little later. Second game, 7 p.m. Eastern. Not one I really love for DFS, and you see no ownership above 10% in this one. Cleveland Cavaliers taking on the Detroit Pistons. One of the bigger totals on the slate, 235. Cavs 5-point favorites. No injury news on the Pistons side. Cavs D Mitch is questionable, which obviously is big news. If he is out, Darius Garland, 7.6K looks pretty strong. think Mobley would get a little bump there. I saw Celtics. They played good ball. It was a good game yesterday. I enjoyed watching it. Hard fought. Do you think that is the reason more so? Like, D-Mitch played the whole way. I didn't see him get hurt with the shoulder. You can tell me if he did. But 5-point spread makes me want to think D-Mitch is definitely a true questionable take. But Pistons have been playing solid ball. So does the line surprise you or make you have a strong lean on D-Mitch? And if he's in, I don't really love this game. If he's out, what does that do for the Cavs?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance Donovan Mitchell misses tonight. Obviously, we will know that because for two reasons. One, this is one of the first lock time windows on the slate. But second, Donovan Mitchell tweets hashtag let him know before every game. And if he doesn't tweet it, then he's not playing. That's just, there's like they're tracking it. Like it's like a 99% chance that he misses if he doesn't tweet that. But yeah, I mean, Kenny Atkinson has kind of talked about this being a pretty tough stretch of games. Like the guys are exhausted. And then he's been finding time for rest. Like I think Garland got a rest last week and then Mitchell rested the next game, something like that. So with this being a back-to-back, obviously this is another Eastern Conference opponent, so a game they are going to want to win. But yeah, I think Mitchell is probably more on the doubtful side of things. So that would make Garland look a lot better. But at the same time, Kenny Atkinson doesn't really like playing these guys a lot of minutes in games where he doesn't need to. Maybe we see Garland get back up to 34, but I would be pretty reluctant to think that he gets up there. I would imagine he's more in like the 31, 32-minute range. Same thing for Mobley. He only played 28 minutes in that game. Jared Allen played 33. So all these guys' minutes were kind of up there. So we got that right. It's just it didn't really work out in terms of like game stacking. You didn't really need anything in that game outside of Donovan Mitchell. But we were pretty much on top of that last night. So, but yeah, as far as like tonight goes, if Donovan Mitchell's out, Garland will look really good. But like I mentioned, I don't think he's going to play a lot more minutes than he normally would. The matchup would be pretty solid. Pick and roll defense for the Pistons is really their main area of weakness. Their rim defense has been really good this season and pretty much everything else. Like they're not allowing teams to run in transition as of late. And then the 3-point defense is a little bit worse, but pick and roll is really where you want to attack them. So Garland would look pretty good there as the pick and roll points leader for the Cavs. And then you're going to get like Karis LeVert starting probably, or Ty Jerome. I would imagine it's Karis LeVert because you were replacing a shooting guard with another shooting guard. But he's another guy that's been on the trade market as well, so he could get traded mid-game. Been hearing some things about a LeVert for DeAndre Hunter swap. Cleveland's pretty locked in on wanting to get DeAndre Hunter over there, so I think that something to keep an eye on. But if he's starting, he would be probably one of the best value plays on the slate, assuming he's good to go for 25, 28 minutes, something like that. I wouldn't really want to mess with the bigs tonight, Allen or Mobley. I'm just going to be probably max one of the top 4 guys, and then max one of the secondary guys, unless Donovan Mitchell gets ruled out. And then the Detroit side, it's really just Harris, Duren, and Cade for me. I think this is kind of a sneaky good spot for Cade. We mentioned it a lot as of late with the Cavs being without Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade, and then Karis LeVert not playing a ton of minutes. Their on-ball defense has been pretty weak. And Cade's been on a tear coming in tonight with back-to-back games of 14 and 15 assists and 52-plus DK points in 4 straight games. So I think he's a pretty solid tournament option. Don't like the spot for Duren, but he's been playing really good as of late. I just think with the Cavs having so much length and athleticism in their front court, it's going to be really tough for Duren to get those alley-oops and those putbacks that he normally can get. So more of a negative matchup for Duren. And then Tobias Harris just playing a lot of minutes and been pretty consistent, 30-plus DK points in 4 straight games. Just always okay as like a last man in, but never somebody you really look to for a ton of tournament upside unless it's a smaller slate. So yeah, not a game I have a ton of interest in, even in the higher game total.
Yeah, Tobias hasn't scored 2 games ago, 36.5. That was the most he scored since January 3rd. And then from there, you'd have to go to December 4th. Is 35 enough on this slate? It's a big one. 9 games. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially in that range with the forwards that we'll talk about later with like the Nas and the MPJ, like I really would not want to burn a roster spot on a Tobias Harris when I can get 50-plus from those guys.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the Duren, like the matchups, like you said, are really tough. And center's always good. Like 2 center builds will be decently popular today. Wasting a center spot, not wasting, but he's 6.4K. He really has to do something. I don't really like this game much at all. I think Cade's a very interesting contrarian spend. Any guy that has like a 40% usage rate. And I do think some of the spends, like we're going to get to Wemby in the next game. I think he gets a decent amount of ownership. You're just pretty much flipping the build. I don't see many spending at point guard. So that's an interesting point, talking point right there. I do think Cade is pretty solid. Pretty much all I got in that game, though. I do think if D-Mitch is out, Garland would probably become pretty popular on this slate. And it still sounds like you have some reservations on that. Just say D-Mitch is out. Garland's 33% owned. If you had to say underweight, overweight, what would you do?
I would probably end up underweight.
All right, I like it. Nothing more for me to add in this game. Let's keep it rolling. The third game of 3 that locks at 7 p.m. Eastern. Talk about big total. 243 in this one. Spurs 4.5-point favorites over the Atlanta Hawks. Injury news in this one. CP3 is questionable. Atlanta side, no Bogdanovic. Still no Capella, and that is it on that side. So you keep mentioning DeAndre Hunter. You look right now, DeAndre Hunter showing for some ownership today. 5,700 small forward, power forward eligibility. It's 7 Eastern, so we will get this news before lock, you'd think, if he does get traded, which is nice. But I want you to touch on him. I mean, man, Stephon Castles, he's been really fun to watch recently. I think his usage just keeps climbing. They said they didn't want to trade him at all. I'm buying into that. Point guard, shooting guard eligible. I think he's very interesting. Comparing him to Tobias, give me Castle all day there. And I think that's kind of what you're saying. I am curious to hear your thoughts with De'Aaron Fox in town, if that changes things for Castle in a negative or positive way. And then also touch on Wemby for that aspect as well. 10.8K, very fair price tag, coming with some ownership. I mean, one of the biggest totals on the slate. We love picking on the Hawks. Look at their pace, one of the highest. No, Okongwu ain't guarding him. Risha Shire, none of these dudes are guarding Wemby. Again, he is coming with some ownership. He is center eligible. Yeah, I think this game can get a little interesting, though. We like targeting the Hawks. Take it wherever you want. Actually, to start Spurs side if you can, and what the addition to Fox does for people like Castle, Wemby, etc.
Yeah, so I mean, first off, that was such a good trade by the Spurs because they didn't really have to give up much outside of, Trey Jones, Zach Collins, 2 guys that were at the very end of the rotation, then some draft picks. But those draft picks probably aren't going to be too valuable in the near future with how good the Spurs are set up. Holding on to guys like Vassell and Castle and Sochan and Keldon Johnson, even all guys that were kind of talked about if they were going to get De'Aaron Fox, and they were able to retain all those guys. So really good job by the GM in San Antonio. As far as the usage, how it's going to shake out, obviously adding a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who's more of a high usage guy versus, Chris Paul, taking Paul off the court and De'Aaron Fox, I think it's going to hurt Devin Vassell the most. We saw Devin Vassell kind of, as he was getting healthier and playing those mid 30 minutes alongside Chris Paul and Castle, he was taking on more ball handling and seeing a lot more usage. I think that's going to be coming way down as of today. And I think De'Aaron Fox, they got him for a reason. There was all the talk over the last year or so that they wanted to pair Wemby with Fox. And I think the pairing's going to work out really well. So I think it's going to be a lot of 2-man game now. The pick and roll scoring for the Spurs has been towards the bottom half of the league. Obviously with Chris Paul not really being that much of a offensive threat anymore in terms of scoring the ball. So I think that those numbers are going to shoot up the board with De'Aaron Fox being one of the better pick and roll scorers in the league. So I think it's a win for Wemby, win for Fox. Obviously, negatively impacted on Devin Vassell. I don't think it changes Castle too much because he plays more off ball anyways. Kind of does the dirty work, a smaller Aaron Gordon, kind of getting those backdoor cuts and easy looks at the basket and playing out in transition, things like that. So he's not taking away too many possessions from Castle. And then those secondary pieces, I don't really think too much changes there. Maybe it's better for a guy like Sochan, who is better with a true point guard on the court, but it's the same thing. He'll be out there with one of Chris Paul or De'Aaron Fox, so not much changes there. But I think it's gonna be really good for Wemby. In terms of this game, though, I guess the DeAndre Hunter stuff. So this first game of the slate. So if he were to get traded, would hope that it happens before the game starts because the teams can trade players in the middle of the game. I believe it was a Harrison Barnes or something that got traded a few years ago in the middle of the game and didn't check back in. Somebody can correct me on that if I'm wrong, though. I'm pretty sure guys can get traded mid-game and then just get taken off the court. So
I feel we have seen it.
Yeah, I know that happens in baseball a lot.
Baseball, it's too much. Yeah, it was Harrison Barnes. Good memory.
Yeah, so that can happen and definitely a risk, but DeAndre Hunter he looks pretty good tonight, I think. Getting the start, been playing a lot of minutes, did really, literally did nothing in terms of the peripheral stats last game, but shot the ball well. I'll come back around to him though, because the matchup I think is pretty good for both sides. Over the past 10 games, these are two of the fastest paced teams in the league. Hawks are number 1, Spurs are 3rd. Spurs really struggling on the defensive end over that stretch, ranking bottom 3 in the league. Hawks are more middle of the pack in terms of defensive rating, but still giving up a ton of points at the basket. Hawks are bottom 2, Spurs bottom 3, which is kind of surprising with Wemby down low. But over those last 10 games, Spurs are also giving up the 4th most threes over that stretch, and Atlanta Hawks still giving up a good amount of transition scoring and being one of the biggest on-ball funnels with they're being bottom 3 in pick and roll defense. I forgot to take my victory lap. I forgot who it was on Monday saying that Cade wasn't going to do anything against Dyson Daniels. Went out to put up like 60 fantasy points up and like 30 real points. So if that guy's in here, then
you don't even know his name. He ain't gonna come out of the woodworks and pretend that it was him that was wrong. You don't know his name. You should have wrote it down.
Yeah, it's all good. I got it. It's a mental win in my head. But yeah, so I think this is a really, really good matchups all around. Start with the Spurs. I think Wemby is in a very good spot. He said that he was really not feeling good in terms of his cardio the last game because he had that illness tag that held him out for one game. So it was a true illness tag. It wasn't like a maintenance thing. He thought that it was allergies, he said, but then was pretty winded in the game against Memphis. Only played 31 minutes when we've kind of been seeing him in that 34, 35-minute range normally. Not listed on the injury report today, so that's pretty good. Imagine he's closer to full strength now. But yeah, adding De'Aaron Fox, another high usage guy. We'll have to see how that plays out. But like I said, I think it's going to be good for him. Should open up a lot more easier looks for him. Having a guy like De'Aaron Fox that can attack the basket and get in that mid-range should open up a lot of looks really all over the court for the secondary guys on San Antonio. So I think pretty big win for Wemby there. And then De'Aaron Fox, I think, is in a good spot. I would imagine he's close to a full go. Been a couple days since he got traded, so enough time to get acclimated to their system. And he's going to be staggered away from Chris Paul to give him all the lead handler duties, I would imagine. Matchup versus Dyson Daniels, like I said, with Cade, it doesn't matter too much how great of a defender Dyson is just because the Hawks just let him play defense on an island, and that leads to a ton of volume for pick and roll scorers. So I think that Fox, really good spot for him. Price is pretty good, and I think that there's a little bit of unknown upside with him heading over to San Antonio. So good spot to get to him at modest ownership. I think AK is a pretty good tag. Probably going to be very motivated finally getting out of Sacramento, so he looks pretty good. And then probably just take a wait-and-see approach on these second guys like the Vassell and Castles and see how things play out. I think it's a good time to do it on this big of a slate. I don't think that we'll be missing out on too much upside on those guys. The Hawks side, it really pains me to say, but I like Trae Young tonight. He just burns us so many times. Like the times that he's in really good spots, he puts up like 30 fantasy points and just defers too much and doesn't shoot. But he's looking like he's getting more aggressive on offense. 34 points in back-to-back games. The Spurs, kind of similar to Atlanta, a lot more vulnerable with their on-ball defense. They allow Castle to kind of play on an island just like Dyson Daniels. Looks like he's getting back to full strength as well. Had a couple injuries that were holding him back with the Achilles, and I think he had a hamstring injury last month as well. Yeah, so I like the spot for Trae at low ownership. I think he's pretty good. Dyson, same thing. He's been outstanding since really the whole season, but last couple of games were really good. Yeah, he's a hooper.
Sign me up for him any day on my squad, man. Him, McDaniels. You could get an all defensive team, and he has some offensive game too.
He does. Got to work on the shot because you can tell he's a little bit reluctant to shoot it sometimes when he's wide open. Doesn't really take a ton of 3-pointers. But I mean, man, he's really good. Hawks definitely got the better end of that deal with the Pelicans. I mean, he's young too. He's like 22, 23 years old. So they got a steal there for sure. But yeah, I mean, he's adding a lot to his game with the peripheral stats looking good. He's rebounding the ball well, getting a lot more assists. The stocks are obviously what we kind of like to see from him. Shooting pretty efficiently from the field over the last 10 games or so. But with the Spurs, last 10 games, they're dead last in turnover percentage, or bottom 10 in turnover percentage. So it could be one of those games where we get like 4 to 5 steals from Dyson. If he puts up, 15, 16 points and adds some rebounds, he could pretty much grind his way to 40 pretty easily in my eyes. So I like Dyson a lot here. Okongwu, I really want to like him because I think the match is pretty good with how bad the Spurs have been with the rim defense as of late. but the minutes are just capped. You would expect to get more from him with Capella sideline, but he hasn't topped like 28 minutes, and that's just too big of a price tag to pay for me on this slate. It's really tough because I want to see him playing 30 minutes because he's got huge upside when he does get past 30, but we just haven't seen it, and they clearly don't want to play him more than 28. And then DeAndre Hunter should be looking at another start here, shooting the ball really well from the field. No peripheral stats last game, but still put up, whatever it was, 23, 24 fantasy points. And he does have some ceiling at this price tag, 5.7K. I think it's pretty good. I do prefer like the MPJ, the Nas Reeds, but he's playing a lot of minutes right now. Hasn't gone under like 29, 30 minutes in over like around a month. So he looks like a pretty solid value option. But yeah, a lot to like in this game for sure.
I probably still butcher his name. Reesashire. Which one is it? Reesashire. All right. That's way easier than I make it sound. If Hunter's out, he for sure is a very strong play. I think he's in play even if Hunter's in. How much interest would you have in him, though, assuming Hunter's in? If he's out, most definitely Reesashire is a solid play. But if Hunter's in, can you still get to him? He's been solid as of late.
Yeah. Yeah, he's shooting the ball really well right now. I think eventually they're going to have to start playing him 30 minutes just because they don't have a lot of talent on the wings. So he's a pretty sneaky option, 4.5K. Kind of gloss over him, but yeah, I don't mind him. I don't know. He's just kind of an uncomfortable click in my eyes. Like he got kind of not lucky in that Cleveland game, but I mean, shooting 11 for 14 from against one of the best defense in the league is, I don't know, not something I really want to bank on.
And talk about a rookie, Matas Bazulis yesterday. Come on, man! What a game that he didn't miss. Shout out to him. That was a good game. Two questions to this one before we move on. Trey Daniels, would you group them away? Max 1. Are you fine playing them together? And if you did, I assume you'd want a Spurs run back.
Yeah, you're probably okay playing them together. I probably want to be max 2 of Trey, Dyson, and Hunter, and probably Okongwu as well. Probably just max 2 Hawks in general, but I don't think you need to force a bring back there. Not on this.
Even if you play Trey Daniels, you'd be fine just with those two.
Yeah, I think so. Because then you're kind of like those guys are not cheap, and the guys that you want in San Antonio are Wemby and Fox. So you're spending a lot of your salary in the first game of the night.
Yeah, very good point. What about Fox Wemby?
No, I'd be okay with those two together as well. I've seen a lot of good lineups that have like correlating pieces on the same team with no bringbacks this season. I know our guy Pensax he does that a lot, and he's a pretty sharp player. So, I don't think you need to force those away. It's more so like the Jaylen Brown Tatum thing, like two guys that eat into each other a lot. Like I think that Dyson does enough of the other things that it's not going to take away too much from what Trey does well.
Makes a lot of sense. All right, let's keep it rolling. Next game on the slate. 7:30 Eastern, Washington Wizards taking on the Brooklyn Nets. Nets 4.5-point favorites, 217.5 total. Injuries in this one. Kuzma obviously got traded. That is very big news. How we have it right here, we have who do we have starting? I don't think it'll be Brogdon. Champagny, I think. Is that
there's a couple ways it can go. I'm seeing different things from around the industry, but there's like 3 guys that maybe even 4 that are possible start candidates. I think Bub is the most likely.
All right, and we should get that news probably right before lock or right at lock with this game at 7:30. Net side, Day'Ron Sharpe questionable, no Trendon Watford. Otherwise, nothing new there. I mean, you got to have interest in some of these Wizards, right? After trading Kuzma, all that usage, all these guys very affordably priced, no one above 6.5K. I know Joval hurt me, but hey, we don't write people off. We don't make lists over here. Go right back to them. 30 piece, that was fine. 42 piece, you most definitely wanted that. I think he's a very strong center play with a lot of upside for the price at 6K. Jordan Poole, Sean's boy. I mean, you can go back and forth with him for sure. The lows are low, the highs are high. He's coming with ownership though, so interested to hear your take there. Always a shooting dependent player that's going to be chalk. Like he can have off shooting nights. We've seen it pretty much the past 3 games. Hasn't really done much, but no, Kuzma's huge for him. Bob Carrington, you always talk about him. Keyshawn George, Koulibaly, start with the Washington side. I think they're definitely the more appealing side without Kuzma than any interest in the Nets.
Yeah, just really quick. Let me pull this up. Yeah, I did mess up in the slate plan because I was thinking that Bruce Brown was going to miss just with the back-to-back, and he's been kind of questionable last couple games. But yeah, in terms of the starters, so yeah, I said like Bub Carrington, I think is the most likely starting candidate. It could be Kispert, it could be Brogdon, it could be Champagny. I think those are the four guys that are the guys that are going to benefit the most from Kuzma being out. But yeah, I would imagine that it's Bub Carrington, and then I would say Brogdon is probably the next most likely. In terms of what that does though for the Wizards, I think it's a really big win for this team. Like getting Kuzma off the court, the guy's just a cancer to that team in particular. He'll probably change his attitude getting to a more of a contending team like the Bucks. But like we talked about a week or two ago, where he's talking about he doesn't care about the young guys getting developed. He's going to go out there and do like play his game, and then he followed it up with an absolute stinker. Was pretty good in the games after that, but I mean he dominates so much usage as a complete ball hog on offense. So this team could be kind of motivated getting him away from that team. I don't know what the relationship was like with those the players, but I would imagine it's not very good. Just
can't
based
be
off
great
of those
if he's
comments.
saying that. Yeah, but for him, I mean, he got what he wanted. He said all that stuff, and he got traded. Like sometimes being a diva, you get rewarded. I mean, it shouldn't be that way, but he got what he wanted at the end of the day. And there's no way he comes and he's that same diva on the like. I feel like Giannis and them wouldn't let him, but I mean, still, yeah, you don't like to see that at all.
Hey, don't tell Dennis Schroeder that being a diva doesn't work, because apparently I don't know if you saw what he said. I won't even bring it up here, but
no.
Yeah. So in terms of what that does for this team, though, from a usage standpoint, Jordan Poole looks really, really good now. We have a 300-minute sample with Kuzma and Sarr off the court this season. Jordan Poole sees the largest uptick in usage, plus 3.1%, has a 26.5% assist rate, 6% rebound rate, so not that great, but he is averaging 1.25 fantasy points per minute. Yeah, I really like this price for Poole, and I think even in a negative matchup, because as bad as the Nets are as a team, they actually have really, really solid on-ball defense just with the schematic style of defense that they play. It's tougher for guards to get going, but they do allow a lot of transition scoring. But I think that the role is going to be really good for Jordan Poole moving forward, getting Kuzma off the court. And I mean, we were paying like almost 8K for this guy. Maybe not we, but people were paying 8K for Jordan Poole. So 6.5K feels really good for him. I think it's a big bounce back spot for him. Joval, he is one of the bigger trade pieces. It's really just a swap between him and Nurkic. So I don't know if they're really like pressing to get that done today. But yeah, he is a guy that's been on the trade market. Even the Lakers have had interest in him. But yeah, this is a really good matchup. The Nets are getting killed on the inside, and he's been an elite fantasy football producer. We saw the double-doubles in back-to-back games and kind of showed the upside that we've grown accustomed to seeing from Joval with a 42-pointer last time out. So yeah, good matchup, good price tag, a lot of upside for Joval here. 1.4 fantasy points per minute with Kuzma and Sarr off the court this season, so he looks pretty good. And then Bilal Coulibaly, I think, is probably the biggest winner from the Kuzma trade. Should see a lot more usage funnel his way. Been playing a lot of minutes as of late. Not the best point per minute producer with Kuzma off the court this season, right around like 0.8. That's just not really his game. But the thing I do like to see, Nets are dead last in turnover percentage over the last 10 games. Another guy that's known to be more of a defensive-minded player, so could see those stocks rise. And then that could lead to a lot of easy transition scoring with the Nets being pretty bad in that category as well. So I like Coulibaly here at 5.5K. And then just got to see what they do with the starting lineup. Like I said, I think Carrington is the most likely, so 3.3K for somebody starting is pretty good. He's, I don't know. I just don't think that he's really like ready yet in terms of NBA talent. I think he's got a lot of potential, but just hasn't really put it all together yet. Maybe this is a good spot for him with Kuzma gone, maybe a little bit more motivation there. But yeah, I'll have interest in him if he's starting. And then Kispert, Brogdon, Keyshawn George, all guys that should also benefit as well. Probably don't want to get to too many of those guys, like max 2 of like the Coulibaly down to Carrington range, maybe even max 1, just because this is such a low scoring game. The net side of things, I think this is kind of close to a near full X out. You're adding in Cam Johnson and Ben Simmons to the mix. Maybe if Darren Sharp misses, it's a really good spot for Nick Claxton. He would probably be tasked to play more minutes, and we've like to pick on the Wizards with opposing centers, so he'd be the guy I'd be most interested in. But I don't know. You're adding a couple of high usage guys and D'Lo and Ben Simmons, Cam Johnson into the mix. Just seems more like a cross out for me.
I agree. I think that side's pretty easy fade. I think Wizards are strong. For everything you said, you got the cheap-ish value guys, the Bub Carringtons of the world, the Kisperts, Cool Ball, I guess, in the mid-tier, and Poole feels way too cheap, and JoVale has a bunch of upside, assuming he doesn't get traded. So no Nets, fine with 1-2 Wizards. Yeah, that's all I got in this one. Let's keep it moving. Next game on the slate, Miami Heat taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. 220 total, 1-point favorites are the Heat. Philly, always a laundry list in the injury report. Embiid is out on the second night. He played yesterday. He's out tonight. Eric Gordon's questionable. Kyle Lowry's questionable. Quentin Grimes from the trade I'm seeing is questionable. Paul George is doubtful. So no PG, no Embiid. And I'm not seeing any injury news on the Heat side. First of all, Tyrese Maxey is just a hooper. Like, I don't care what his price tag is. I am definitely good playing 40 minutes of Tyrese Maxey at 30% usage any day of the week. Yabusele, I love how he has power forward eligibility. Like, he plays 35-plus minutes. I am totally fine with Yabusele. I think those two are pretty strong. By far my favorite Philly guys. Oubre's price tag's getting up there. I'll let you talk about him. But another guy that could play 40 minutes, if he gets hot shooting, you'll take that performance. And the Heat side, I know our man Jake, you like Tyler Hero. I'm good with Hero. Bam, a little disappointing yesterday, but he still played 35 minutes, 26.5 usage. I'm good going back to him. Terry Rozier, what an awful, awful first half. Second half, not too much better, but he seems fine as a bounce back at low ownership. Jovic did fine. Like, this is actually one of the sneaky games. Sneaky in quotes, where maybe I'm curious to hear your thoughts against an undersized 76ers team with Yabusele playing the 5. Like, I think you can get to 2 pieces on both sides in this one. How do you see it?
Yeah, I 100% agree. We've seen these teams really shrink their rotation up a lot. Obviously, the Sixers had really no choice, but it could get very thin very quickly here. If Drummond's doubtful too, so really thin in the front court. Grimes questionable since the trade. So a good chance he's not ready to go. And then like the Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry stuff, those guys are old and just not capable of playing a ton of minutes. So now if you talk about, Drummond missing and 2 of the Grimes, Gordon, Lowry missing, we're talking a ton of minutes for Ricky Council, Justin Edwards. Obviously we know that Maxey and Oubre and Yabu are going to play a ton just because they have to. And then the Heat, they've been running a pretty tight rotation as well. Just it extended it a little bit. I saw some like Alec Burks minutes last time out. Played 18, had a huge game. We know he can do a lot in a very little short time frame. But, it's the guys up top that you want for Miami. I think it's a really good spot for them. We talked about it a lot with Embiid off the court this season. The Sixers' rim defense really, really struggles. They're also giving up a lot of transition scoring. And then the Heat on the other side playing a lot of zone defense, so it leads to a lot of three-point attempts. So they're a huge three-point funnel there. So really good spot for the off-ball shooters, and we've even seen guards kind of take it to the Heat a couple times with, them giving that assignment to Haywood Highsmith, who's not the best on-ball defender. The Heat, I like Tyler Hero too. I agree with Jake. I think it's a good spot for him with the Sixers being down all of their best defenders, shipping off Caleb Martin, and possibly Quentin Grimes not being ready to go yet. Coming off of a game where he almost had a triple-double, 8.5K, I think is a really good price tag for him. Usage is pretty much split between him and Bam for the high-end stuff, so I think that he's a totally fine option. Sucks now that he's only got point guard eligibility, but we know that he's got a lot of upside, and a close spread, maybe you run into another overtime game. He plays like 45 minutes again. For Bam, though, he was a little bit underwhelming last night, only 38 DK points, but like you said, the usage still held up. Eric Spoelstra, a lot of positive comments about wanting to get the offense running through him a little bit more. So all the tracking stats like the usage, assist rate, touch time stuff has been up since Jimmy Butler has been suspended. Undersized front court on the other end. So I think it's a pretty good spot for Bam. 8K is a very strong price tag with the power forward eligibility. So I like him a ton. I like Kelly Ware a lot as well. He should be fine to play a lot of minutes with him being a rookie, young guy on a back-to-back. And Sixers be getting killed on the inside with Embiid off the court. He's fun to watch. He's really good, and he's just got crazy athleticism. Really good floor stretcher as well. So kind of got a lot of outs to hitting a ceiling game at 6.2K. I like him a lot. Jovic been playing well off the bench, but I would be max one. Ware and Jovic, they kind of eat into each other's minutes a little bit too much. I probably don't want to go back to Terry Rozier on this big of a slate. I think that we'll probably get better value, and I don't really think that the 95th percentile or 75th percentile outcome we get from Rozier is enough to be viable on this slate. So I'd be okay not having any of him. On the Philly side, I agree with you. Tyrese Maxey, absolute hooper. Somehow not good enough to make the All-Star game, but I think that's complete bullshit. But he's been great this season. He's an Iron Man too. Should expect a heavy dosage of minutes from him coming off a game where he just played 40 minutes. He'd probably play 40 again tonight. Matchup is good. Three-point shooters taken to the Heat as of late. On-ball defense not great for Miami as well. So I think it's a really good spot for Tyrese Maxey. 10K, good tag. I do have interest in Kelly Oubre again just because he plays so many minutes, and we've seen the reboundings really spike with Embiid off the court this season, Embiid and Drummond off the court this season, which is likely going to happen again tonight. And it's a good spot for him with the off-ball shooting stuff for Miami. They're funneling a lot of stuff to off-ball guys with the way they play zone defense. So it could be a sneaky high-scoring night, and maybe he gets a double-double. I like Oubre even at 6.8K. Ownership should be held in check with the slightly aggressive increase in price. And then I agree with you, Yabu, good matchup for him as well. He's a floor stretcher. Had a flash the ceiling of 47 DK points against Denver. I would say the matchup is probably a little bit easier with Jokic out there versus Ware and Bam, but he's playing so many minutes that it might not even matter. And then, like I mentioned, if we get a couple of these guys that are questionable out, I think we can go right back to Ricky Council and Justin Edwards. Edwards has been playing really well. I like his game. I would like both those guys a good bit if Gordon, Lowry, and Grimes were to miss.
Great breakdown. It's a great game to target, like a 220 total. There's a lot bigger 245s and stuff on the slate, but very fair price tags on a lot of these guys. First of all, the Maxey stuff, I love his comments about when he was asked about the All-Star stuff. He was just like, all those guys are very deserving as well. I mean, it's the best guys in the world at the end of the day. He did not care really about that one bit. At least he pretended that he didn't care. So that was cool. Oh, and Alec Burks. Dude, I do not understand how these teams don't figure it out. Alec Burks is a hooper. He's been a hooper. Get him on the court. He will put the ball in the bucket. He will figure it out. Bring him to the Bucks. Bring him to anywhere. I want to see 20 minutes of Alec Burks every single day. So, yeah, got minutes yesterday. Of course he smashed. That's what Alec Burks does. That's all I got to add for that one. We'll keep it going. Still 4 games left on the slate. Again, big one, 9 games on tap. Like button, subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. Very much appreciate all 352 of you watching live, watch on playback. We appreciate you all just as much. Like button helps us out a ton. Next game on the slate, big boy spread. Memphis 10.5-point favorites over the Toronto Raptors. 236.5 total. Injuries on the Memphis side. No Desmond Bane. And we have Marcus Smart, Vince Williams, and Brandon Clark, and John Conchar all questionable. Not sure how big those Q tags are, but there is no Bane. That's important. Toronto, this is an important injury news. No Jakob Poeltl, that's big. No RJ Barrett, no Quickly. Then Chris Boucher, that Q tag is also important. We're looking at 2 of the highest owned guys on the slate. Kelly Olynyk, we have 45%. This is what I'm saying. When center is strong, it's mainly because Kelly Olynyk, I'm not saying you're locking him. He's a free square if you're playing 150 teams, but 3,300, good point per minute guy. Starting center, they're thin in the front courts. Jacoby Walter, also guard forward eligibility, 3,200. This is where a lot of people will go for value. And that Boucher questionable tag is definitely important. I mean, they'd even be better plays if he missed. If Boucher's in, I think he's a little interesting. Again, they're pretty thin. What is your what's your thoughts on the Boucher stuff? It's an illness. If he does play, can you get to him at all at 3-6 as a pivot, or you just play Kelly O, play Walter? It's a big enough slate, get different in other spots. And then Memphis side, not as appealing for me, but I don't know, maybe Jaren Jackson against a beat-up front court I think has some upside.
Yeah, that's the guy that I would probably be looking to on the Memphis side of things. I think there's still some upside to Ja, even at the 9K price tag, even with those guys returning. But it's like, we're getting the Memphis Grizzlies are getting healthy, so it's going to be back to like a 10 to 11, probably even 12-man rotation at times. So the time, those games where we're seeing Jaren play like 34, 35 are probably gone. The 36s from Bane are probably gone. Probably seeing Ja settle like 30 minutes a night. He can still do it though. He put up 29 minutes, 53 DK points against the Spurs. It definitely matters who's starting for Toronto for the point guards, because I think if it's Davion Mitchell, that's kind of enough for me to get off of Ja. I think Davion's a very good defender. He's done a really good job limiting on-ball scoring when Quickly was out, so I would expect that to continue here if he does get the start. And then Jaren, I think, would be the guy you'd want there, because the usage has held up with Ja getting healthier. The drives are still way up. The Raptors are so thin in the front court right now, and they've given up a ton of rim scoring. So I think that Jaren is in a pretty good spot here for the Grizzlies. The Toronto side, though, I agree that the ownership should be what it is on Kelly and Jacoby Walter. I think those are two of the best plays on the slate from a value standpoint, especially if Kelly's starting. I wouldn't go as far as say like a lock, but in single entries, I think you're playing him. I would probably have like 80 to 85% in MME tonight if he's starting, because I think there's very few avenues for him to fail if he's starting and playing 25 minutes, and even has upside for more. The downside risk, though, is if he's not starting, then the minutes probably get cut down a good bit, because he's not young by any means. They probably want to get a look at Orlando Robinson. So that's who I think if starting would be eating into those minutes. I would probably max one of those two regardless, because I think that one of these guys is going to get the bulk of the minutes. But if it's Kelly O, I mean, we know what he can do. He's got like not triple-double threat, but he does a lot of everything. Pretty solid point-per-minute producer, 1.3 fantasy points per minute. Started the second half last night for Proto, put up a near 30-point double-double. So yeah, from like a per-minute standpoint, he's really good and would be one of the best guys in the slate. Walter he's probably going to play so many minutes that it might not matter, but he's pretty low usage and pretty low fantasy point per minute guy. Probably going to be the second or third option offensively, so decent spot for him to get a lot of shots up. He shot pretty well last night in the start. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd be more okay getting away from Walter just because the downside is a lot worse than Kelly O's, because he doesn't really do a lot of like the rebounding and assist stuff. But it's probably not like a spot where I'm looking to somebody on the same team to get leverage off of him, probably just fading him. So I'm really good with Kelly Olynyk chalk, okay with Walter. And I guess I didn't really touch on the Barnes and Dick stuff. Scotty Barnes, that's an expensive price tag in a 10-point spread. Matchup is going to be really tough too. Jaren Jackson has been really good locking down the lead guys on the other side. He was really good against Giannis the other night, and I would imagine he's going to be on Scotty Barnes tonight. The usage and like the assist rate stuff, touch time stuff, it's all going to be massive for Scotty Barnes tonight with no RJ Barrett, no Quickly, no Jakob Poeltl. So matchup might not matter as much. If the game does stay close, I would imagine he's a big reason why. So yeah, I'm if he gets steamed up as we get closer to locking, he's like 25%. That's something I'd probably be underweight on, because I think that there's a little bit more downside to him at this price tag than there is a guy like Kelly Olynyk. And then Grady Dick, 4.2K, good matchup. Off-ball shooters been doing pretty good against the Grizzlies all season long. He's pretty solid from a per minute standpoint, right around 1 fantasy point per minute. So should play like 26, 27 minutes, would be pretty solid value if that's the case. So I think he's pretty okay, but it's kind of the same thing for him. Like we see him go off in the first and then not do much the rest of the game.
Jamal Sheed, 3.1K, almost mid price.
Yeah, I forgot to mention him. So I don't think that he's going to start, but he's going to have a pretty big role. We saw him put up a near double-double last time out, and I would prefer him coming off the bench because I think the ownership would funnel his way if he does start. But he's just a much better per-minute guy than Davion Mitchell. So, yeah, I like Jamal Shed a lot. Probably don't want to play him and Davion together.
Shed, not Sheed. Shed.
I don't know. It could be Sheed. Somebody.
I have no clue. I'll always tailor you when it comes to that stuff.
That's why I don't know. I don't watch a lot of Raptors games, so I don't know.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, where people are going to go for values, Toronto, 3.3K, Kelly O, Jacoby Walter, 3.2K, Shed, Sheed, 3.1K. Someone in chat will know. Shed, thank you.
Shed.
You were right. Too sharp. Thank you, Shot Like Harden. Yeah, I mean, that's where people are going to go. Grady Dick, 4.2s cheap. Like that, you can get Giannis, you can get Wemby, you can get Maxey, you can get Ant in the next game. Like, it's like phenomenal slate. Like, getting the right spend ups, we have plenty of value. Mid-tier we talked about as well, the heroes and stuff of the world, the Oubres, Yabasellis. There's so many different ways to go on this slate. I'm really happy it landed on this day when prize pools are really big. Definitely in the $11, excited for that. So
Edie stuff, I forgot to mention him as well. It's kind of easy to gloss over the Grizzlies because they have so many bodies. Oh, there we go. Joe Val got traded, so don't got to mess with him. It's Rashawn Holmes season officially.
Woo! Rashawn Holmes. I mean,
got traded to the Kings of all places.
That's a throwback. Rashawn. He was on. Actually, I was just looking at my first. We don't have too much time to waste, but my first shipper, like my most notable $5 single entry, like 6-7 years ago, Rashawn Holmes was on the team. So I was just looking at that. Always a good point per minute guy.
Yeah, for sure. We could circle back to that, I guess, at the end if we have time, but it's quick breakdown. It's going to be Rashawn Holmes starting and probably one of the best values on the slate now. Didn't check his price. But yeah, Zach Edey, I'll touch on him really quickly. In games that play up in pace, that's when you're going to see him lose minutes because it's hard to keep him on the floor at that size and that slow of a runner when the pace gets too fast. But still, that doesn't really matter as much. He's put up some massive games, 35 DK points in 4 of his last 6. Raptors getting killed on the interior. If it's Orlando Robinson on the other side starting, I like it for him because I think that's the type of guy he can match up better with versus Olynyk. So yeah, I don't mind ED. It's just the opportunity cost at center is pretty strong tonight. So he's kind of in that not no man's range. What's it called? It's like a dead range. Yeah, no man's land. It's like a dead range kind of. But there's still some upside to him.
I mean, center just 3.4K, just center only is Rashawn Holmes. It got way stronger. Like you have the Olynyks, you have him. You did lose a really strong one in Jovel, but center's really, really good. Like Holmes, Kelly O, I assume a lot of people will be starting their lineups there, and you can get the world after that. So yeah, center, you can't miss. Opportunity cost very high. All right, let's keep rolling. 3 games left. Chicago Bulls. Actually, I'll start. The favorite, Minnesota Timberwolves, 11.5-point favorites over the Chicago Bulls. 226 total. Injuries for the Chicago side. Lonzo is resting tonight. DeLon Terry is questionable, which means nothing. Minnesota side, no Julius Randle, so Nas will start again. And I'll throw it right to you on this. Are we going to get 40 minutes of Nas? Because if so, I am always in for 40 minutes of Nas Reed, regardless of the price tag. Ant's coming with some ownership. Again, you have all the spends in the world. I guess how does he compare to Maxey, to Hero, to Cade? I know all those are relatively similar prices, but also different. But at the end of the day, like salaries, we're not starving by any means for value. You can get the guys you want. So how does he compare to the others? I mean, Gobert, I hate playing him. Center's now completely loaded. But I shouldn't say I hate playing him. I'm not a big fan of his game, period. He's been good for DFS, though. He's going to be really low owned, I imagine, now with center being so strong. So can you get different there? If you play Nas, I would play him at power forward. Giddey was solid yesterday. That's something you hit on, 29% usage, one of the highest he's had all year. Take this game away. Timberwolves, Bulls, big spread.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like here. Obviously, the Bulls provide the pace. Also really good just from like a defensive matchup standpoint, them giving up a ton of rim scoring, but also giving up a ton of catch and shoot volume as of late. The Wolves are playing very solid on offense right now with a lot of rim scoring. The three-point offense has been pretty solid. Adding Nas Reed to the mix definitely helps. But yeah, with the Bulls sitting out Lonzo tonight, and then obviously no Levine, you're going to have a lot more ball handling in the first units to go around. So I like it even more for like the Giddey, Kobe White, and Io guys. I think that even what like we kind of talk about the Grizzlies or the Timberwolves being a very good defensive team, I still think that there's enough upside here because we saw I don't know why I keep saying Grizzlies, but the Wolves give up a ton of points to the Kings. Obviously, the Kings, I would say, have more talent on the offense side of things, but the Bulls, I mean, they put up 130 against the Heat last night. So they're capable of doing it in bad matchups. I think Vooch on this slate is probably more unplayable than others, just too big of a slate. He was really bad last night. I would say the matchup tonight is even worse against Gobert, so I'm okay getting off of him. But I do like the guards, the Giddey, White, and Ios. Giddey, always have interest in him coming in lower owned, which he should tonight. Pretty much a clear runway now to play 34, 36 minutes a night. And been great from a fantasy perspective, 40-plus DK points in 3 of his last 5 games. He's always a triple-double threat when he steps on the court, and the numbers back that up. 22% usage rate, 38% assist percentage, and 11% rebounding rate. So a lot of interest in Giddey tonight. Kobe White, run into a tough matchup tonight. I would imagine it's going to be Jaden McDaniels on him, but the minutes will be there. He's right around 1 fantasy point per minute with LaVine and Lonzo off the court this season. We'll see a little bit more ball handling in the absence of Lonzo as well. So he's okay. Don't love him. It is nice that they give him shooting guard, small forward now versus point guard, shooting guard. And then Io, small forward, power forward. That's interesting. But yeah, he played a lot of minutes last night, but it was still great. 1 assist shy of the double-double, put up 41.5 DK points. I think I like him to over Kobe tonight. And then the wings, Patrick Williams and Matas Buzelis. One of these guys should start tonight. I think Patrick Williams is most likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Matas. Just give your young guy some run. He was really good last night. Probably one of his best games as a pro. For sure his best game. He went 10 for 10 from the field, 31 minutes, put up 24 points. They're going to continue to play him a lot moving forward as they ship guys away. They even said they're looking to get rid of the guys they got in the trade for LaVine. And then Dalen Terry, if he's out, a lot more minutes around at that 3-4 position. So I think Matas is really good. Probably going to see him in the 5K range in the next week or two, I would say, because he's looking like he's coming on really strong right now as a pro. I like his game. And then the Wolves side of things, a lot to like here. And Edwards, I think, is probably one of the best spends on the slate. This could be a spot where we just see him put up a huge game. Like maybe even 50 points tonight. Just a lot of things that he does well are the things that the Bulls can't really defend. They don't really have a lot of great on-ball defenders, can't defend the rim. Obviously, he's really good at shooting the 3-ball. They're getting a ton of 3-pointers as of late, so I think Ant is really, really good tonight. Gobert been playing a lot of minutes with Randall sideline. Probably going to have to do that again here because they have 2 prototypical centers with Jalen Smith and Vooch on the other side. Probably matches all of Vooch minutes. But he played 37, 40 minutes in the first 2 games without Julius Randle, so probably going to do that again here. And Vooch is one of the worst rim protectors in the league, making this a really good matchup for Gobert. But yeah, a lot of opportunity cost at center now, so probably don't need to go there, but there is still upside for Gobert. And then Nas, I'm going right back to him. I think it's going to be like 7.5K, maybe 8K by the time Julius Randle returns to the lineup, because we get officially 2 weeks for Randle. He's going to be out for 2 weeks, so we'll get 2 weeks of Nas in the starting lineup. Great matchup for him here. So I'd love Nas tonight, probably a core play. And then lastly, Jaden McDaniels. He's playing really good as of late, kind of turning the corner as just as a professional. I think he's kind of coming into his own and realizing a lot of his potential. Shooting the ball really well, 23, 22 points in the last 2 games, and fast-paced game versus a team that's weak in transition, weak in rim defense, I think is where you want to get to Jaden McDaniels. So I think that at no ownership, he looks pretty good. But yeah, lots to like on the Minnesota side.
Yeah, we've been way ahead of the curve on McDaniels. I mean, it was 5,300, it felt like, last week, and still no one wanted to play him. And just give me all the minutes in the world, his length. He's always doing something, always active, scoring the ball a little more too. Yeah, I'm not scared away at that price at less than 1% ownership. But, I mean, Nas is a grown man. That price is too cheap. You love Ant a lot. Yeah, I don't know about Gobert, though. Like, even like 44 might not be enough on this slate with how good center is the problem. So that's my only hesitancy there. All right, 2 games left on the slate. Let's keep it rolling. Golden State Warriors, Utah Jazz. 5.5-point favorites are the Warriors. 224 total. No injury news on the Golden State side. I did see that you're hoping that one guy on the Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga, ships to the other side and just stays there overnight. I think Kuminga is a good player as well. We will see if that happens. No Sexton for Utah. Lauri Markkanen's questionable. If Lauri plays, I don't really like this game at all. I think it's a pretty easy fade. Even if Lauri's out, I don't know, maybe John Collins, but it's 9 games. I think more so make it an 8-game slate. Steph's cheap, but we just haven't seen that upside, man. Like, there's a billion guys on the slate that have, like, give me Hero for 200 more today. So maybe you can talk me into something, but it's a fade for me. How do you see it?
Yeah, I don't know. I have a theory that a lot of the reason why Steph has not been playing well is because Draymond's not out there. Like, it's just the offense kind of stalled. Just like with the way they play, it's just so much motion, like in off-ball screening and stuff like that. And it's kind of got disrupted having like Schroeder and Pods and Quinn Post out there. Like, they don't really know how to play with Steph. So I think that we probably see in the short term Steph be a little bit better in comparison to what he has been doing, which is not very hard because he hasn't topped 40 DraftKings points in like 7 straight games. If there was ever a time to do it, though, it's a matchup versus the Jazz. Huge 3-point funnel, huge transition. terrible in transition, I should say, but they are good with the pick and roll stuff. That's just not really Steph's game. But they're, allowing a ton of fantasy points to opposing guards. So I think if there was ever a time to play Steph, it's probably going to be tonight. Probably the only guy I'm looking to on the Warriors. Moody is out, so going to open up some more minutes in the front court because Steve Kerr said they kind of view him as a power forward now. So DeSanto's probably mixing in there, not anything that I'm looking to for DFS. Pods is okay. Like, it's a good matchup for the guards, like I mentioned. 4.2K, pretty solid for him. I don't know why they're not just starting him over Buddy Hield right now, but yeah, I would not play him with. It'd probably be like a max 1, max 2 situation on the Warriors. Wiggins, good matchup. Don't think there's enough upside for him on this type of slate. And then I agree with you on the Jazz side. If Laurie's in, makes it really tough. I think Collins is probably the guy you'd want. Not cheap now, 6.7K, but he's been really good from a per minute standpoint. With all the injuries that the Jazz are dealing with right now, he's kind of the guy that sees the biggest uptick in usage and point per minute stuff. And he should play 30+ minutes here, but he's also a guy that's on the trade market, so could get shipped off before the game starts. I've heard the Warriors looking at him. I think I've even heard the Bucks are looking at him. So yeah, definitely gaining a lot of interest. Probably not a spot I want to get too deep into. Max 1 both sides, I would say.
Yeah, 9-game slate, make it 8-game slate is how I see it. Last game of the slate. This one I don't think you can ignore like that last one. Big favorites are the Denver Nuggets, 10.5 over the New Orleans Pelicans, 239 total in this one. Pretty big. Injury news on the Pelicans side. Alvarado is questionable. Daniel Tice did just get traded for Denver. It's always funny if you get traded for some cash. Like, all these teams don't have so much money in cash. I don't know if that's a slap in the face, but he went to the Thunder. He has a chance at a ring, so I guess good for him. But Denver side, no Westbrook. Aaron Gordon is questionable. So these teams played 2 days ago. Dude, Jokic is too good. It's insane. 36 minutes, only shot the ball 13 times, 9 for 13, 24% usage, 70 DK points. He just makes the game look so easy. I love watching him. I think it's top 2, not 2, and it's not even close in terms of who's the best in the NBA. I don't think there's really any argument at this point. Just makes it look so easy. But with all that being said, if Holmes starts, if Kelly Olynyk starts, I mean, Jokic is 12.8K. I think he's by far the best spend. You can't play 3 centers on DraftKings, though. You only can play 1 center on FanDuel. What are we doing? Are you prioritizing? We have enough value, but then again, you're leaving off one of the better value plays on the slate. Or do you rather go like a chalky MPJ? Jamal Murray's getting some ownership. Talk about Aaron Gordon questionable take. I think that actually is decently big. So start Nugget side if you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a little bit worrisome when 2 teams face off that, they just played. And I would say for the most part, even though Pelicans lost by double digits, like, they hung around for most of that game. But I don't know. It's a home game for the Nuggets. Second time they're playing this week. Like, I could see them blowing out the Pelicans just because the Pelicans don't really have a ton outside of like the CJ Murphy, Zion stuff. Definitely tougher to. I don't know. I mean, I guess, Vegas is accounting for that. They're 10-point favorites, but I really do like this game a lot. There's a lot to like on both sides. I mean, the Nuggets aren't the best defense in the league. They're allowing a lot of 3-point catch and shoot stuff. The transition defense have been really bad. The rim defense was really good against the Pelicans the last time out, but in general, they're not that great in that area either. So there are paths for these Pelicans to put up a lot of points. And then the Nuggets should be able to put up like 130 easily here. I would say Pelicans give up a ton of rim scoring. 3-point defense is terrible. Transition defense terrible. On-ball defense is going to be really, really bad now if Jose Alvarado were to miss. So really, that's great for Jamal Murray, I would say. So the Pelican side, I'll hit on them quickly because I think it's kind of easy to break down. I like Zion a lot here. I know that the minutes haven't really been there, but I mean, from like a per minute standpoint, I've been talking about that a lot in the slate, but like you have to look at like the opportunity that with, adding guys and taking away guys like DeJounte and Ingram and whoever else, all the injuries that the Pelicans have dealt with. And then we have a pretty decent sample size, like right around 100 minutes for Zion, averaging 1.64 fantasy points per minute with DeJounte and Ingram and all those guys off the court this season. He was a little bit rusty coming off the illness tag, so I think that kind of held him back a little bit. But, I mean, he's definitely got a ton of upside, even if he doesn't play 30 minutes here, because he's going to have so much usage going his way when he's on the court, 40% usage rate in those minutes with all those guys off the court. So I do kind of like Zion here at low ownership. I think 8.4K is a reasonable price tag. And then I know we've been talking about it a lot. Like, hopefully we run into the game where he plays 30 minutes, because if he does, he's probably going for like 60. I don't think that's tonight, just coming off the illness tag, but I still think even at like 27 to 29 minutes, plenty of upside for him. Trey Murphy, I mean, there's a lot to say about him. We've been on him for a while. Like, since he's came into the league, I feel like, I mean, he's just an absolute hooper and really showing that potential that he has right now. 40 and 41 real points in the last 2 games. 3 straight games of 50-plus DK points. Matchup's really good, like I mentioned, with the Nuggets giving up all that 3-point volume. And I think when somebody's just playing as good as Murphy, you just kind of want to ride it until the wheels fall off. So I think that at low ownership, I guess it's not really that low. He's looking at double digits now, but he's been really good from per minute standpoint as well. 1.27 fantasy points per minute, probably playing like 38, 39 minutes again tonight. So he looks really good. I love the spot for him. And then CJ, I think, is in a pretty good spot. Price tag is a little bit tougher to get to for him. But he got hot last game in the second half, went for 30 real ones, 49 DK points. And if Murphy's not playing well, or if they're just, there's more defensive attention on Murphy, CJ should have a lot more open looks. So I like all 3 of Zion, Murphy, and CJ. Would be max 2 of those 3 guys. And then the Alvarado news, I guess, is pretty big, because they're going to have to add somebody else into the mix. It looks like Antonio Reeves is available, G League guy, probably not enough upside to go there, but Jordan Hawkins kind of interesting, 4.5K. We know he's going to check it when he's out there. And then keep an eye on the Carlo Matkovic stuff moving forward. He's going to be in the rotation. The coach said that he will be in the rotation now. So just keep an eye on him. They ran a lot of overlap with Missy and Matkovic, get a little bit more size on the court for Jokic, and he was really good in the G League, so a little bit of talent there. Nugget side, love Jokic tonight. Not sure how much I'm going to get to with all the value that's opening up at center. 13K is a hefty price tag to pay, but it's definitely warranted. He's probably getting 70 plus tonight. I don't know if that's going to be enough just with this big of a slate and the other spots where I could see some really big scores from like the Wemby, from Ant, from some of the other spends. But nothing bad to say about him. He's probably a lock for triple double. Jamal wasn't great last time out, but with Alvarado being downgraded to questionable, they're going to be missing all their best on-ball defenders. So I think the matchup gets a lot better for Jamal tonight. And then MPJ, Mike Malone loves this guy. I mean, I don't think that they want to trade him. He was really, really good the last game. And the last 2 games that Gordon has missed, he's been really good, playing 40 minutes a night. There's a lot to like about the matchup with the catch and shoot and transition defense being bad for the Pelicans and him playing so many minutes. I think 6.4K is pretty reasonable for him. I do like Christian Braun as well. Bad transition defense. Minutes are spiking. And then I'm not going to mention Naj. I don't think there's any upside there if Gordon were to miss.
It's crazy to see Trey Murphy $300 less than Zion. I mean, it's right. Like, he's playing all the minutes in the world. Like, if Zion was playing 36 minutes, no chance. He's 8.4K, but still, to see 8,100 to 8,400, shout out to Trey Murphy. Absolutely hooping for sure. That's 9 games, Rio. Anything, again, if you want to circle back, Holmes is 3.4K if he starts, like him versus Kelly Olynyk. And again, that's probably not the last trade we see on the slate. Again, that's probably why I don't love the 7 p.m. games as much, especially Cleveland, Detroit, Milwaukee, Charlotte's. Do you see injury news or like trade news happening at, like you mentioned, Golden State? They're in the market for stuff. Utah might be doing some things. Ingram, who's obviously not playing, but Pelicans looking to be in the market a little bit. Like, do we see some of these later teams, just a random trade at night that could absolutely change stuff and you want to backload a little bit? It's not really backload, though, because a lot of games are at 7:30. Majority of the games, 7 of them are in the first hour. So I just naturally, I guess, don't like the 7 p.m. games as much for the most part. San Antonio Hawks pretty good, though. But final thoughts on anything with the changes?
I mean, Rashawn Holmes, really good value now. I would say even Tristan Vukovic is another guy to look to, min price center. And then Jordan Poole going to be, I mean, he's going to have so much usage now with no Joe Val in the lineup. I mean, he could really like put up like 25 to 30 shots tonight. I would not be surprised there. Trade stuff that I think we kind of touched on as well game by game, but the Golden State Utah stuff I think is probably the one that's the most likely. Like, if there were any trades to happen, it's probably those teams. And then I would say like Vucevic is on the trade block as well. I actually don't know if they're going to be able to trade him. And then, we said DeAndre Hunter, Karis LeVert, those two guys could get swapped. So, that's just something you just got to take it as it comes in. That's not really – I don't know how you can plan for it.
No. I don't think you can. You just got to be at your desk, at your computer, ready to go when the injury news hits. Rio does a great job taking the Discord. You should always have underdog notifications on anyway for the times that – most of the times they're right. I got to give them some credit even though it has been a little rough as of late like you talked about. Awesome stuff, Rio. 9 games. You deserve that drink of water. Spitting facts, spitting awesome information for everyone watching. All we ask, like button, subscribe button. Shows your appreciation. It helps us out a ton. And if you do want to join us at the Nation to get the premium, the Slate plan, we're not going to be on the shows on Friday. We're not on Monday. Rio still does the Slate plan. Showdown didn't even shout you out. Just a 7K win, just another day ending in Y, Rio. That's how good you've gotten. But hey, showdown shipper from you yesterday. Awesome stuff right there. Who was it? Chris Dunn, the 6% owned 20 ball. Shout out to Chris Dunn helping you get to the top. But awesome stuff. Again, if you do want to join us, Ship 50 gets you $50 off your first month with Optimizer. $99 takes you all the way down to $49. No better time. Super Bowl Sunday coming up. NASCAR back in full force. MMA pay-per-view season. Waste Management tomorrow. NHL, of course, still going on. Huge prizes in the association tonight. Good luck, everybody out there. Feel like it's a good one for the SHIPIT Nation community. Ship 50, head over SHIPIT Nation. Get in the Discord as well. For Rio, I'm Titletown. Good luck, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. Peace.